Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. So in the lead up to the remake, reboot of Child's Play, I've decided to review the original Child's Play. This was written by Don Marcini and directed by Tom Holland, not to be confused with the new Spider-Man, but a sort of horror director known in the 80s. And it stars Catherine Hicks, Chris Sarandon and Brad Dourif. And for those who haven't seen it, this film sort of looks at Charles Lee Ray, who is a known killer and is ultimately trying to evade police at the beginning of the film. He's shot but finds a hiding place within a toy store, only to be found out by the police. Before he dies, he ultimately uses black magic to transfer his soul into a Good Guys doll, a very popular toy for young boys at the time. And ultimately they think he's dead. And we're introduced to 6-year-old Andy Barclays, played by Alex Vincent. Infused with the demonic soul of a serial killer, Charles Lee Ray, played by Brad Dourif, Chuck Lee establishes himself as a master manipulator with the ability to get away with more than just murder. Look, I really like this film. I was a big fan of these when I was younger, in my early teens. I really enjoyed them. I thought they were fun and sort of creepy and sort of well done. And revisiting them again when I'm an adult, they have a different effect. I find them much more humorous than I did before. But I think they're really great and entertaining films. They have a little bit of humour. Yeah, there is horror to them, but it's quite clever and well done. This, to me, is the best in the 7 films I think we've got of Chucky, which makes 8 with the reboot. I just think the first one's sort of the best. It's solidly written for a horror film. It's not a brilliant script, but it's well written and tightly written, and they knew exactly what they wanted to do and the direction they were headed. And everything within the script added to the story and to what was going on. And I really liked that aspect to it. I liked the animatronics that they used, animatronic puppet that they used for Chucky. I think that was really cleverly done. And some great techniques they used along the way. Like, we see a POV shot through Chucky's eyes and we get to see him move around a house and what he's sort of capable of. And I kind of liked that. So it sort of didn't throw you into the animatronic doll to begin with. It was like seeing the world through his eyes. And I thought that was really clever and well done. And there's some other sequences where a small stunt person ultimately wears a mask and, walks around in sort of a Chucky outfit. And that's really clever as well. I like the music. I think all the performances are solid within the storyline. I think Chris Sarandon's sort of solid and does a good performance. Catherine Hicks is quite good. This is very few films I've seen her in. I only really know her from Seventh Heaven, and the mother in Seventh Heaven. But she's really great in this, I think. And Alex, the young kid Alex, I think he does a solid job as Andy. He's really convincing and he's able to show such emotion and do a variety of things. In a lot of ways, it feels like Andy's character is a precursor to Kevin McAllister within Home Alone, because there's a variety of things that he does in order to trick Chucky to try and stop him from attacking him, and sort of sets his house up in a way to protect himself against this psychotic serial killer doll, which is very reminiscent of Home Alone. I like the effects that are used in this. I just think it's a really solid and fun film. There's a lot of humour in it that you don't expect. And Brad Dourif is brilliant at voicing Chucky. He brings a real life and brevity to the character. You really believe him in a way. You sort of invest yourself in this. I get swept up in this every time I watch it, and it has a lot of rewatch value. It's very fun and entertaining, and that's what you sort of want from a horror film. You don't want it to be gory or over the top, which this definitely isn't. It's slimmed down and it only has what it needs to tell its story. And Don Marcini, who's the creator of these particular Chucky movies, the first 3 and then the last 2, I think he's created an interesting world, fascinating sort of storyline, and an interesting sort of way of doing a serial killer sort of thing differently. Like you had, Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, you had Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street, Michael Myers from Halloween, and they were all sort of masked killers that were human beings in a way, where this is sort of taking it to an extreme and doing something completely different. Having not a physical human body, but having a robotic body that this particular killer inhabits is so different and unique, and I like that about it. It isn't a perfect film, there are issues with it, but I think overall it's a solid and well-made horror film. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And there's another film that Tom Holland did I really highly recommend as well, Fright Night. This is a great vampire sort of comedy, sort of humorous horror film that was done in the 80s as well. And Chris Sarandon is the star of it as well, who plays the vampire. And I really like that. And I'd like to see more of Tom Holland's stuff because I think he was a very good filmmaker, especially in the 80s. He had a lot of great horror films that he was able to produce and get out there in such a creative and interesting way. Like, yes, the story is a bit strange how a person can transfer their soul into a doll, but it works within the storyline. They even go so far as to explain how it sort of worked. And I really like that as well. They don't usually explain how these things happen. They usually throw you into the world and force you to accept what you see rather than explaining it. So that's another thing they added in the script that was quite well done as well. And there's a lot of anchoring and things that they go back to that they show earlier in the film. I think the only way to sort of watch Child's Play, in my opinion, the original anyway, is the 25th anniversary Blu-ray edition. The picture looks crisp, the sound is really great, and just adds a great element to it, I think, in a lot of ways. Final verdict. Look, if you're a horror fan and you haven't seen this, I highly recommend this. This is a great film, well done, interesting and funny, and it's just one hell of a ride. And for everyone who's seen it, you know what I'm talking about, and I highly recommend the Blu-ray. I'm going to give the original Child's Play 4 out of 5. I enjoyed myself with this. It's a fun and entertaining horror film that I go back to time and time again. I get a lot more out of each time, and I get swept up in the story and the fun elements to it. And I think this is really great, an entertaining movie. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please subscribe down the bottom. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.